I'm in like a little bat cave.
We are live now, so welcome back to Interoperability Unlocked, everybody. Paul is dinkering with lights, so welcome to the light show. But anyway, thanks for joining us today. We're super excited to welcome one of our board members today, Dr. Samit Desai, VP and CMIO of one of our member organizations, Ascension. He's going to help us illustrate some important things happening in the healthcare interop landscape today. We're also going to recap, all the hot takes and good things that we saw at HIMSS a couple weeks ago. So with that, Dr. Desai, thanks for joining us. Can you just share a little bit about yourself and about Ascension?
Sure. Yes. So I'm the CMIO of Ascension, but maybe that can be Supreme Medical Information Officer. I'm just teasing with that. I'm just teasing. It's basically the doctor of information technology at Ascension. Other notable things, without going too far, is I'm an ER doctor. Still practice, enjoy it. Changes every day now, at least. And I do care about this space and have invested a lot of my career in it, and have worked for health information exchanges and vendors in the space over the years, which has been a joy. As for Ascension, Catholic, not-for-profit health system, one of the larger ones in the country, operate about 100 hospitals, 5,000 employed practitioners, 8+ states, and have cared about this space and invested in it for a long time.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Let's jump right into how is Ascension thinking about interop today, or yourself, since you said that this is kind of near and dear to your heart, and how does it kind of remain a priority for the organizations that you work with?
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, we don't use that word a lot in Ascension.
Mm-hmm.
And, from my personal view, but I think even if I could speak for my colleagues and leaders, interop is the thing that powers so many core organizational strategies, whether it be clinician experience or our access and growth strategies or our quality and safety strategies. It touches them all.
Yeah.
And so we will occasionally pivot on all of that and say, what are we doing for interop in a sort of technical way? But it is infused in so many of the things that we are together strategically driving. And so just for a few examples of that, we worked with our platform partners, our EHR partners, all of them really, some more strategically, on making sure they are connected and exchanging information in a real and consumable way that impacts the point of care and care decisions. And that was done primarily for clinician experience and quality and safety ends, not for any other end. And again, many years, lots of even financial investment in making that the case. We've also, we're a large organization, right? 100 hospitals sounds so big, but US healthcare is much, much bigger. So we're small. And so we have also invested in dedicated teams that work with our ecosystem partners, sort of affiliate practices and such, where our technology folks and their technology folks can liaise and make sure the data is flowing for all the purposes I've just outlined. And so that's been I think, semi-unique, intentional, dedicated focus, so that, our key partners know what happened with their patients and that they can schedule into our practices and communicate with our hospitals as they need to do to care for their patients.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
What would you say to somebody?
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
What would you say to someone who's on the fence about interop and like the role it can have? You said that like this isn't a word that's used a lot, like within Ascension. So what would you say to somebody that's like interop? Like, what is that?
Yeah, so if the question is framed like someone's on the fence with interop, I would just challenge the very question itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the better question would be something like, how are you going to manage Medicaid patients that course through your system because they live in the real world and they go to social service organizations? They don't always come to you. What is your plan for caring for them across the continuum? And kind of put a fine point and those are all interoperability type strategies and technologies that they will have to answer for. Same thing, you could ask the question on how do you ensure quality and safe care if patients are coming into your ER or to your specialist, if you don't have a full view of that patient, and then pose the question that way. And on it goes across the most important things that all healthcare institutions have to make better.
Great. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I might be on am I on a slight delay? Is that true?
I think you might be, or maybe it's
Yeah.
me.
Okay. Well, it's something the mouths are moving and the sound is coming later, which I'm fine with. It's cool. We can it forces me to unjersey myself. So, we're used to cutting off people at the second to last word of a sentence and taking over. So we'll pause more and be more kind that way. Yeah, I think that what Samit's talking about is valid. I think the other side is also part of the story. Would you like the care that you've provided here to not be available when your patient goes someplace else, right? It's so it's the two-way street. But I think very interestingly, the way you put it there, it's not a thing.
Right.
This really is a back end thing. Commonwealth has a challenge from a marketing perspective as to whether we talk about Commonwealth, Commonwealth Inside, like the Intel Inside thing, or we talk about it as a thing, or just make the stuff work. And I think we've gotten more and more comfortable with the idea that our job is to make us not exist, right? Or not appear to exist. Like you don't think about the electrical wires outside your house on poles and underground until something goes wrong, right? But you want the utility to act like a utility and be available to do the many things that your products do. So you have pre-charting, automated, medication reconciliation, clinical decision support. But these are all things to make you work to the level of your license better, faster, cheaper, right? So you can get some of the administrative stuff done and get to the meat of an exam, H&P, all that stuff. Oh, I see you're currently taking blah, blah, blah. Please confirm. Yes, it's very different than what medications you're taking today, knowing that in certain, especially age groups like the geriatric, that answer changes depending on what time of day you answer the question, because it depends the last set of pills they took, the morning pills versus the afternoon pills, and so on and so forth. So it's a safer, better experience, and also allows you to get to the real clinical stuff that you really want to get to without losing time. It's not wasting time. It's, if we don't want to lose the time for a good interaction, which I think is why you see the AI scribe kind of thing popping up too. Less time recording, more time interacting.
Makes sense. Yes.
Absolutely. So I can kind of ask this question to both of you, but what kind of industry trends make you more optimistic about the future of healthcare?
So without going down the AI thing is a very real mind exploding kind of thing, as we all know. And maybe I'll put a fine point on it as it relates to this conversation. I don't hear this a lot. I know Paul gets it. It's like AI times, we'll just say interrupt for the sake of conversation, is like the Cambrian explosion, right? Because what is interrupt? It's many things, as we just described. One of the things it is it helps, I'm just going to simplify, it helps doctors know their patients. That was the point. Does Dr. Wilder know Courtney? And so we did all this work to make sure data moves, that some version of the longitudinal record is available to Dr. Wilder. But and we have made great progress, and Commonwealth has been a force for that progress. Still ways to go, of course, so that's probably forever work. But AI on top, no one could read all of it anyways. So now AI allows you to summarize, and even better than summary, chat with this now increasingly longitudinal record. And that gets us to doctors knowing patients with a depth and breadth they never have before. And so these things are multiplying, and it's going to be a revolution in care decision making this year, really. So that's the thing that I think about a lot these days.
Yeah, I'd like to add a slight twist to that. I think the AI is helpful. And I think actually, interestingly, from an LLM perspective, if you know how they're built, and Samit probably is aware of this, the LLMs, the things that you're putting into ChatGPT and saying, make my stuff sound better, it's statistics, right? It's picking words that belong with other words and other concepts. It just knows this should follow this. And there's this interesting thing, in healthcare, there are some pieces of data are incongruent, right? Like you shouldn't have like really, normal insulin and glucose levels and a ridiculously high A1C. Like there's certain things that just, there's things that don't go together. And like I'd like to see the LLMs in the healthcare sense help to recognize some of that stuff. Because I think one of the things I'm generally concerned about in healthcare data interoperability is the amount of errors that exist. And it's not intentional. It's, the EHRs change and this, people start doing their hot buttons and they hit L twice and they thought it was losartan and now it's something different. So they picked the wrong medication to record. And these things happen, right? And better error detection would be nice because, but the other thing that's happening that I think is helpful in that is individual access. We've had a debate for years about what will patients do with their data, and the number one thing I can think of with their data is make sure it's accurate. It's, it's no one's fault, right? It just, the speed matters. The scribes will make mistakes too. We have to admit that healthcare is an artful science, right? There's science involved, but there's a lot of art and there's a lot of things that go in between there. Mistakes will happen, sometimes in the recording, sometimes in the diagnosis, sometimes in lots of things. Be on top of it. Like you look at your credit card bill and you make sure someone didn't just charge $3,000 to Best Buy last week that you didn't do. Like, I don't have that TV. Who has that TV? It wasn't me. So, and I've seen these things, and I'm not sure if Samit, you ever heard me give this example. I had a flu vaccination that got recorded as HPV, and that's a very different vaccine. And that doesn't, HPV isn't harmful. It's just a little odd for a 48-year-old male to get an HPV vaccination. Much more common with pediatric males now, right? It's a common vaccination for all genders.
Yeah.
But what if a future cancer drug is contraindicated to the HPV vaccination? That future AI is going to skip right over that therapeutic because it's going to think I have a strong contraindication, something that just wasn't tested in the pharmacy process. So, I think this error detection thing is one of the things I'm most interested in seeing get added, because then we can start doing fun things on the ML side related to CDS and making sure we're actually making intelligent AI clinical directives as opposed to being supportive.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, yeah.
I'm certain that will tie into what we're going to talk about next, but we're going to transition and switch to talking about HIMSS. That was a couple weeks ago, now that we've all semi-recovered, for those of us that were there. So Paul, for the folks that haven't attended, what makes HIMSS the must-attend event for both yourself and for Commonwealth?
Yeah, I'm dating myself. I've gone to over probably 2 dozen hymns at this point. So it's well, maybe not that many. When you add in some like radiology conferences, it feels like they're all the same thing. There's been a general shift in hymns from show and tell and business directly to customers and prospective customers. There's a lot of showing the new stuff to existing customers, but you're not seeing as much new sales go on like on an EHR. You're not walking into the Oracle booth or the Epic booth saying, I need an EHR today, right? That was not the case 10 years ago and 15 years ago. You walked in starting to make PO processes and get a purchase order done. It's become we talk B2B. People say, oh, it's very B2B. It's like, no, actually, turns out hospitals are Bs. So you mean V2V, right? It's really a vendor to vendor conversation that, it's a lot of business development and partnership relationship things. So from our side as Interop, we're a platform, not a front end. We're very, very busy there because everybody's like looking for their highways and how do you get connected to stuff and what's the power? Is this really ready? Is there enough data? So we got this little 10 by 10 booth and we're busy all day long. You which it's really it's kind of funny. And we're talking things from, the biggest payer in the country down to, startups that just, got formed a week ago. So it's a huge V2V. Now, the B side, the other B, Samit, Ascension, other things, they're there too. But it's a lot more of looking at things you already have and doing the perimeter, looking for the smaller things to augment what your EHR or your other tools currently don't do. It's huge. It's tens of thousands of people. It's exhausting. You can do your summary and talk about the parties, or you can talk about the work. But the reality is, both happen, and that's what makes it exhausting. Quite frankly, I'm getting too old. I'm hanging in there, but it's getting harder.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, what I always find useful is um, the sort of enormity of it is always striking, even though you keep going year over year. And all the chatter, it's kind of sensory overload. But if you're paying attention, you can get a sense for important trends and important shifts. So I think it's valuable in that way. And so a few more specific things about this year. And I don't know that this is true, but increasingly, I think it's less about purchasing new things and more about the evolution of the already bought product and platform and making sense of how the change is happening, back to AI making change of it all. So it's as much a learning thing. And yeah, there might be upsell opportunities and things of that nature. But, by and large, US healthcare is not on a buying spree of things, of net new things. So it's really about learning and making sense of all the new capability and feature that is emerging across existing platform and apps. So I would say that, and it's sort of a related concept on that end, is it does seem like people are more attuned to workflow and execution and the granular thing, and not like the big strategy thing, because everything is now collapsing to that workflow level, particularly because of AI and it's advancing in the core platforms. And this is the year where it's like all these roadmaps are delivering, not just for the EHRs, but for various core applications, which then calls to Paul's point. Well, you need data to summarize and make sense of and know things. And so there will be increasing attention to this data, because how good can the AI be if it doesn't have more longitudinal data than exists within it? So I think that's a big thing that emerged for me, is this hyper attention to the workflow process, and I think even like almost a cognitive process, like what's changing for doctors and clinicians, because it's not just like here's a new feature, like the very things they will think about are changing. Yeah.
Yeah, two things we saw this year just on the product side that I thought were interesting. One, first, there was a lot of AI, but it wasn't AI companies what I saw more of. I saw more of AI inside existing companies. So there's almost like an admission that EHRs are monolithic, difficult to use things, and rather than make them easy to use, we're going to put a chatbot inside the EHR that helps you find what you need faster. Right? I want to build a soap note. Okay, I'll bring you right to that screen, as opposed to the 17 clicks to get there. It's like, I forget it. We're not going to try and make these things efficient. We'll let the back end figure itself out. And that was interesting. A lot of interactive into EHRs and other analytics products. Everything was natural language questions. And yes, you had this feature all along. Let me show you where it is. And should I fill it out for you? Cool. Great. So looks great. So kind of a more efficient use of things that are a little clunky at times. The other thing I noticed I was missing, I didn't hear much on security. I'm not sure if we're like numb or it's gotten better. I think it's probably a little bit of both. But the problem with security and risk there is every time you get better at defeating it, someone figures out a better way to attack it. So I'm a little concerned that we're getting a little numb to the it's not if, it's when kind of mentality of CISO land. Have your backup processes ready versus your attack thwarting processes ready. But I was a little surprised at how little of that there was. Just from my observation walking around.
Yeah. I think that is going to have a renaissance here pretty soon because of all the reasons you just described. And to the extent that agents, true agents, not, kind of the blunt use of the word, start manifesting, and well, that's a whole nother ball of wax that I don't know anybody has fully grappled with. So
Yeah, that battle will continue. We'll be having bots going against bots for a
yeah.
while.
Yeah. So based on what we saw at HIMSS or what we read afterwards from people's, recaps, do we think we're getting to a point where interop is kind of moving past pilot sort of purgatory and like starting to really prove its value through all the different use cases?
I'm biased.
Go for it.
Well, I think we're already there. I think that that's it's already kind of. So I'm on the board of an FQHC, right? It's one of the volunteer good things that I try and do with my life. A nice FQHC in the Bronx, actually. And I'm the treasurer. I'm on the finance committee, the audit committee, on the IT committee. Surprise there. And today we were going over their security defenses and other things relative to their EHR. And I said, have you talked to your EHR about what features break when the interop edge breaks? Right? Because what happens if you get, so we were talking about being attacked and what would happen if they were attacked and severed from the world, right? And they're like, oh, we have it's our own instance of this EHR. Severing us doesn't make us stop. I was like, yes, but have you asked your EHR like what pre-charting and other processes you need to now have a paper or manual process for? Because you're not going to get this data because here's what happens. I'm not sure people know this. If we get notice all the time of very large institutions that have been attacked in some way, and we all take them off the grid, right? We say, oh, we don't want to exchange with that right now until they give us the green light that everything's clean again. So if you're that thing, everyone's going to isolate you onto an island. And so you only have your own data. What changes? And he said, oh, I never, because he's an IT guy that, he's like, I did not think of that. So you have this, and Samit's in that world of clinical and IT. These two do
Yeah.
have to talk together, right? Because it's not just a product. There's also what happens. And you saw, like, I'm not sure if you've all watched The Pit, right? You saw when they turned off their EHR and it went to mass mayhem. Now it was funny to watch, but it's true. Like you have to change your process a lot when you take away these tools.
Yeah. And again, so I would kind of, on the core question, agree with Paul. And it just depends on what it is that the interop is supporting that you can then pass judgment as to whether we're in pilot mode or, already part of the thing itself. And I think by and large, we're not in pilot mode if you had to just answer the question.
Sure.
And I'll just keep making this point for you, Paul, to think about, and even Courtney, as we think about for Commonwealth itself, and really meta to Commonwealth, the industry that seeks to promote interoperability, is to maybe just think about it from the operations standpoint, the experience standpoint, the quality and safety standpoint. You reframe the whole thing, and I think have a very different conversation on how people should engage and the depth and sophistication with how they engage.
Yeah, 100%.
For sure. Okay, I'm going to wrap us up with one last question. So we've already booked our booth for next year, so I'm already thinking about next year. So what wish list items do you hope to see at HIMSS next year, or even a conference later this fall? As we know, they'll all ramp up, right at the back to school time. So what's on the wish list?
I have two things. I'll go really fast, Paul.
Yeah.
One is, it seems that even though 3 years post ChatGPT and all this AI stuff, that it's still like very early. We're not even in the first inning. But our leaders will want to see progress. And so it will be important to authentically understand where meaningful shifts have occurred in all the things we care about, like truly, not kind of storytelling, like the KPIs and the metrics of consequence. So that's one. The other thing I'm more interested in is it is, again, still early. And the more that industry, you have to interrogate what is changing with all of these technologies converging and advancing, and what is actually changing in workflow. And again, back to like cognitive processes for these clinicians. How is the health system transforming? I think getting clearer and clearer view of that, and it's a moving target and will be varied, I think will be a great service to U.S. healthcare, really healthcare broadly, is to see that clearly together.
Yeah, first of all, I don't disagree with either of those. And the second one, to me, is the more challenging. We've had problems for a long time in healthcare trying to measure effects of nudges and technology changes over time. And so far, if you did it at a macro level, like bending the quality cost curve, we have not done a good job, right? Even with all this data. So, it would be great to see some data that shows that we are bending something. I don't know if it's going to be next year. But I think you'll start to see at a micro level some institutions able to prove that for themselves, even if we can't prove it out at a writ large, countryside. And I think CMS is pushing that agenda. You see the access model, we're kind of embracing apps as near provider level license to do work with patients. They're making them covered entities by having them bill to Medicare on a fee for service basis, making them a provider. that gets interesting. That's poking a serious beehive in healthcare, and healthcare by design goes slow on change. Like, so this is we're at conflict with ourselves here. All this AI
Oh, have we lost Paul?
first got
Yeah.
invented, we go slow.
Yeah. We lost you for a second, Paul, but either way, time will tell. I'm going to wrap us up so that Dr. Desai can get on a plane. So thank you for joining us today. And that's a wrap for today. We'll see you next time. And if you want more on our HIMSS insights, we'll have a blog out next week. So until next time, thanks everybody.
Thanks, Courtney. Thanks, Paul.